Chapter 125. A tremor flitted across the corner of Revlin's eyes, but the boy quickly let out a single sigh, clenched his fists tightly, and began to speak. I believe that help provided out of pity is only temporary. However, if the help you are providing is in exchange of useful information I have provided, that would undoubtedly be far superior. And also, Revlin's voice trailed off, and he paused to gather his thoughts before continuing. I have heard that you, Duke, personally select and greatly cherish your cavalry members. Yet, my brother and uncle still desire to have those cavalry members in their grasp so they can captivate them and use them for experiments. If I were crying while providing such information, how much would you be able to trust me? Certainly, there's truth to that, Kishir agreed coolly. I don't want my observations and judgments to be doubted just because I'm young and frail. Even if he seemed futile, he believed it was the best course of action to save his loved ones. Upon seeing Revlin's desperate and earnest gaze, Yudhir had a strange sense of déjà vu. He felt like he had once faced such a gaze a long time ago, in a past so distant he couldn't recall. But who could possibly aim such a gaze at him? It was absurd. The fleeting déjà vu faded away soon. Very well, let's confirm one last thing. Would you really do anything to save your loved ones? To Kishir's question, Revlin responded firmly, yes, even if it means confronting your terrifying brother or your uncle or father directly. If necessary, I will, although I doubt I would be much help. A sense of gravity draped over the boy's pale face. I hope you stick to your word, your resolve. That's the only way we can proceed with our plan. With that, Kishir's words signaled the formal completion of their agreement. The tension released from Revlin all at once, and he gasped for air momentarily, swaying before he steadied himself against a wall. Thank you. Once everything is over, I promise to repay this favor, no matter what happens. How about focusing on what's coming up next, rather than promising for an uncertain future? Pardon? Revlin, who had been bowing his head in confusion, looked up with wide eyes. Kishir gave him a gentle smile. Surely the Apeto family's children won't just attend today's grand worship and then do nothing for the rest of the festival. What do you plan on attending next? At this, Revlin, who seemed to have guessed something, began counting his fingers, muttering something under his breath. I don't have a clear schedule like my brothers do, but if I were to go out next, I'm likely to attend the sharing of the Sacred Flame event held in front of the Imperial Palace the day after tomorrow. The sharing of the Sacred Flame event. I see. Since it's an event that usually has the attendance of young nobles in their late teens, the likelihood is high indeed. Kishir appeared to instantly recall what the event was upon hearing its name, while Yudhir had to rummage through a mirror of names in his head before he vaguely remembered. It was a ceremony where flowers, carefully cultivated in the shrine throughout the year, were fairly distributed to everyone by the hands of young nobles. I thought only a select few devout followers could participate, so it seems there's no problem attending if one hasn't decided in advance. The head of the ceremony is Uncle Beltrail. The Apeto family has produced many priests of the sun god for generations and supports and attends almost all shrine events. The sharing of the sacred flame ceremony doesn't require complex rituals, so my brother Lenore mentioned that he was considering allowing me to attend alone. That's good. What exactly was good remained unclear, but Kishir's crimson eyes sparkled with more energy than ever before. A moment later, he lightly rubbed his chin, a smirk tugging at the corner of his lip as he asked Revlin another question. Revlin, can you act? Act, sir? Yes, it seems we have to put on a play that day. The boy blinked his eyes in surprise and opened his mouth. Yudhir too was equally baffled. The following day, Yudhir switched his schedule with one of his subordinates who was originally supposed to assist in maintaining peace during the sharing of the sacred flame ceremony. The sudden change did not seem to bother his subordinates. They had become accustomed to following Yudhir's instructions during the preparation of the festival. Hey Yudhir, not going on patrol today? Unlike when he would go out for patrols, Yudhir was now leisurely walking down the corridor in his uniform, prompting familiar faces to greet him. Among them were some who had found reasons to pick fights with him in the past. Yudhir nodded, feeling a sense of unfamiliarity. Yeah. Good, you need to rest at least a day. How can one work every single day? Going to see the commander? Take care. As the harvest festival drew close to an end, the cavalry members had gained unprecedented confidence. They had managed to prevent major and minor accidents and misdemeanors during the event with near perfection. No matter how much the Imperial Knights and Imperial Mages who shared the responsibility of maintaining peace with the cavalry belittled or guarded against them, it was of no use. The deeply rooted confidence wasn't so easily broken. Everyone knew that the festival's success was largely due to Kishir and Yudhir's efforts, especially Yudhir, who attended more events than anyone else in Kishir's stead, with the latter often had to step out due to imperial family engagements. He would appear out of nowhere like a ghost whenever an accident was about to happen and salvage the situation, thereby earning an unprecedented level of trust and faith. What could be more reassuring than knowing there was someone who could handle any situation no matter what happened? All Yudhir had done was try to prevent potential accidents that the members might encounter based on his experiences from his previous life. But the outcome had changed far more significantly than he had anticipated. Now, there was no one in the cavalry who envied or was wary of his strength, regardless of whether they were close to Yudhir or not. Everyone had come to trust him. Who could feel competitive against someone so strong and seasoned that it would be considered rude to even compare one's ability to his? Jealousy and competitiveness were typically felt towards someone within arm's reach. It was unusual to feel envious of someone who had been standing aloofingly high from the very beginning. Commander, I'm coming in. Unaware of how his position has changed within the unit, Yudhir opened the door of Kishir's office. A warm and fragrant scent wafted from the sunlit window. While other nobles would still be asleep at this time, Kishir was already reading a letter, perfectly dressed in his commander's uniform, a steaming cup of tea by his side. Is that a letter from Revlin Shan Apeto? Yes, it seems he wrote down the points we requested overnight and sent them. Quite swift. Kishir lightly showed the seal stamped on the back of the letter. It matched exactly the pattern on the ring that Revlin had shown as proof of his identity the previous night. Before leaving the Apeto house last night, Kishir had requested several pieces of information from Revlin. This included the layout of Apeto mansion, matters related to Dandelion, who they had to rescue, and lastly, personal information about his uncle, elder priest Beltrail Shan Apeto. Considering how quickly he compiled all the information overnight, one could feel how desperately he had been moving. So, have you finished reassigning the event participation personal? Yes. As Kishir flipped through the letter, Yidir quietly opened his mouth. Including me, there will be two from Shen, two from Sil, and one Zhang, and total of 5 people participating as security officers at the sharing of the sacred flame ceremony tomorrow. Any who protested or seemed suspicious about the changes? None. Well done. Kishir lightly responded and began to read the last page of the letter. Yidir hesitated for a moment while watching him and then opened his mouth. Can you now tell me what kind of play we will be putting on tomorrow? Last night, Kishir did not give a detailed explanation about the play he intended to put on. He only said he could tell him once he reassigned the event personnel and received contact from Revlin. But now all those tasks were completed. It was time to hear the answer. Yidir quietly stood, waiting for quite a while until Kishir finished reading the entire letter, folded it in half, and looked up at him. Let's have a cup of tea together and talk. Sit over there. Although Yidir pointed that there was no need to drink tea if the purpose was just to talk, it was futile. Moments later, he had to endure feeling slightly like he was sitting on pins and needles as he watched Kishir pouring tea with a pleased expression. There is no need for such a burdensome expression. It's just a play, literally. Revlin, you, and I will just have to speak our lines and move according to the script. After setting down a cup of tea in front of Yidir, Kishir also placed a plate with as many as 5 pieces of cream cake.